Let's speak live now to the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. Mr. Littleproud, thanks for your time again on Sky News today. We'll get to domestic matters very shortly. Let's just start with that Iran piece after that explanation there. How concerned are you about that rising death toll in Iran?
Yeah, these reports of 12,000 people being killed by their own government speaks volumes about the government and the ideology of it in Iran. It's important that the Iranian people who have shown great courage and conviction in taking charge back of their country and giving themselves freedoms, it's important that it's not all in vain. And I think as an international community, we need to help in any way we possibly can. And that obviously, firstly, is through sanctions and further sanctions that would put further pressure on the Iranian government. But I think it is something we need to continue to watch and watch closely as an international community to make sure that innocent Iranians who want to see regime change and have done it in a peaceful way, of protesting, that you and I would see as a peaceful way, being killed for that. I think we need to, as an international community, lean into this and make sure that those innocent lives are protected.
And as you're speaking, David, we're just showing our viewers shots of Air Force One, I believe, landing back in either Washington or Florida. Donald Trump, the US president's been in Detroit talking about the US economy. We won't break away to it, but we think that when he comes down from the steps of the plane, there might be a chance to speak to some reporters and we'll get the latest. Because, David, he was quite vague in his most recent comments about what help is on its way means. No matter what happens in Iran, presumably because of the way Donald Trump's having such a big influence globally right now, the next appointment as Australian ambassador to the US is crucial. Who would you like to see in place?
Well, look, someone that doesn't have a record of publicly berating or belittling the current president or any future potential presidents of the United States. I mean, it was a poor pick to start with by Anthony Albanese, who picked Kevin Rudd, who had made disparaging comments about President Trump previously. To actually appoint him, even though he wasn't a president, he was a presidential candidate and potentially was going to be the president anyway. Why would you take that risk with a relationship as important as the one that we have with the United States? It was reckless by Anthony Albanese to start with, to undertake that. And the fact is, while many herald Kevin Rudd's success, let's be honest, the biggest deal that we cut around critical minerals landed in his lap. The Chinese put export controls over critical mineral exports out of China, over their componentry. That meant the United States, of course, needed us. So there wasn't great success that everyone heralds out of Kevin Rudd in the United States. And the fact is that Anthony Albanese needs to be a lot more careful. And even his own language. I mean, he's on the record, public record, which has set our relationship back with the United States. It's the first rule of politics. You don't make commentary about other world leaders or potential leaders, particularly in democratic nations in which you have close relationships with.
But presumably there are lots of ministers from both sides of the aisle, David, that would have historical comments that could be dubious.
Well, that's why we need to be careful in who we pick. But there's plenty of great Australians that could represent ourselves, not just in politics, outside it, and in the diplomatic corps. The reality is that we should cast the net widely, and who will not only continue to enrich our relationship with the United States with President Trump, but also a future administration, whether that be Republican or Democratic. And that's why we need to make sure there's 28 million of us. I'm sure we can find someone in there that can tick that box.
Yeah, look, fair enough. Let's turn to events back home as we continue to watch Air Force One just pull to a stop. We will, of course, go to the US president if he says something of significance. But we're 1 month on exactly from the Bondi Beach tragedy. Do you think we are on track to make sure something like that never happens in this country again?
Well, not unless we face up to the real core problem, and we've had a lot of diversions from Anthony Albanese. It's extreme Islamic ideology that has caused this, and it's been allowed to fester. And we saw it on the 8th of October 2023 on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. It started there, and the warning signs continued. It continued on the streets of Sydney and Melbourne in particular, where we saw fire bombings of houses and cars, and then a synagogue where people were praying to what we saw a month ago, and then continued to see about a week later a rabbi's car being destroyed celebrating Hanukkah. I mean, this extreme Islamic ideology has been allowed to creep in and fester because it's been unchecked by an Albanese government that hasn't taken it seriously. And this is the reality. That's what we need to face into, is to cut that out, and we need to cut those people out that perpetrate that hate by either isolating them from society if they're Australian citizens, but if they're not Australian citizens, we need to send them away, send them back to the country they came, and we need to tighten up our immigration laws. We've got mass migration into this country without the proper checks, and reality is we're not, as their own anti-Semitic special envoy said in her recommendation, we need to increase our screening on extremist views of people coming to this country, not just for anti-Semitism, but for all extreme views. And that's what hasn't happened. That's a recommendation the government's had for over 6 months and done nothing with it. That's the problem that we found ourselves in as a society, and a society that is quickly and fastly becoming broken unless we have the courage to look ourselves in the eye and look at the real problem, not diversions.
OK, David Littleproud, we'll leave it there for now. That's the Nationals leader joining us live. Thanks. Appreciate your time.